Hey guys, so before we get started with today's episode, we just want to let you guys know that if you want to support this cause to which this episode is dedicated, which is the Black Lives Matter movement, you can do that by clicking the link below in our description. Basically, that is a link to an article with many ways that you can help out, donate, and show your support. And of course, you can show your support in other ways, protesting, calling your representatives, getting out there and making this cause known. So we just wanted to give you that before we got started.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hi again.
Hi.
You don't know how long it took us to record that little PSA.
Wow, way to dox us. You just dox everybody. Everybody, all the time.
I just wanted to lighten the mood a little. It felt a little tense because we were having some struggles.
I don't know. I think it's the heat getting into everybody.
Maybe
It's really
that's
not
what
that
it
bad
is.
in here. It's been way worse.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm kind of comfortable, but I'm also cold and
Shut up, Bridget. Don't care.
all the time.
We added an AC unit. That's helping.
It's helping.
It's
You might be able to hear it. You probably will be able to hear it.
In the
I'm
background.
sorry. We need it.
Mm-hmm.
There are worse things to hear.
The podcast is pretty much brought to you by that AC unit right now. I don't know if
Hell
we
yeah.
could continue without it.
So my name's Bridget.
No, we're not doing this again. I
Sorry.
veto.
I'm Madison.
I'm Frani.
I'm Logan. God damn it.
Mm-hmm. And now we have to stick,
God
but this
damn
time we're going to stick to it, though.
Mhm.
Okay. We'll live in the confusion.
Mhm. What's that one
Oh.
note Bridget was, oh, when she gets, oh, I'll just start making that noise. You know
Wait, what?
You know that when Bridget gets upset, she goes, oh,
She goes, oh.
I'll start doing that noise whenever I get
I don't
upset.
even
do
know
I
what you're
do?
talking about.
You're just like, oh.
You
Ooh,
wait.
I'm sorry.
Listen back to the podcast. It's just like, well, I remember the most significant one, which is kind of relevant when people were talking about how like Waves and all this stuff like had a black director and it didn't. I was like, shocking, he's not black, and I just hear you at the corner go, oh,
Oh. What noise do I make when I get upset?
you yell at me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Or you're just like, God damn it, blah, blah, blah.
Motherfucker.
Heteronormative
son of a
bullshit.
bitch.
Heteronormative bullshit, fucking film
It
bros.
usually is. Usually is some bullshit.
Anyway, so we're talking right now about.
I almost said speaking of because I was thinking of the other thing that we're going to record later.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, speaking of which.
Yeah, no, that's not what this
Just
is.
kidding. That's not this podcast. You'll just have to wait and find out what that podcast is.
I mean, oh, yeah, we will announce it later. I thought we already announced it for some reason.
I don't know.
I
I don't know
burp,
anymore.
I just worked it out, and I just realized I did it into the microphone.
Anyways.
Ooh, sorry, sorry. But anyway, so we're here reviewing the movie Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx and Brie Larson.
Yes.
Yes.
I loved it. I just want to say this before everybody starts. It's so much better the second time. Like the movie really kind of improved on the second
Really?
watch. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only ever seen it the one time, but I could imagine that being true.
Me too.
Yeah.
I definitely
Also,
feel the
this-
need to watch it a second time. I feel like you'll catch more things. Because you were saying like things during it that you definitely didn't see on the first watch, I'm
Definitely
assuming.
not. No.
I was looking up this director, and he actually directed a movie called Short Term 12, also with Brie Larson. I think he works with Brie Larson a lot,
He does. Yeah.
which is cool because I like her. Though I did realize in this movie that she has a really long neck. That's
oh
like
my god! Oh
It's
my
not a
god!
fucking knock
I
to
thought the
Brie.
same fucking thing.
There's a scene where she and Michael B. Jordan are sitting on a bench.
Yes!
Yes! I was
I know
like, wow,
exactly.
she's got a long ass
That
neck.
is, Madison, that is fucking me up. Because I literally
insane.
was like, that bitch has got the longest neck.
It's not a knock to Brie Larson. Yeah, like I think she's beautiful. She's just got a really long neck.
Yeah, no, she's just,
I'm also going to dox Logan right now. He said he's never been more attracted to Brie Larson than in
White
this movie.
trash Brie Larson is like exactly what
he's
I
like,
love.
He's like, I just want her to make me a sandwich.
I want her to make me a Jif sandwich in the middle
Yeah,
of the
that's
day.
what he said.
Hell yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. No. I mean, I'm actually not a huge like Brie Larson fan, but I thought she was really great in this. So.
I like Brie Larson.
Wasn't she in The Room? Not The Room. Room.
You were talking about
The
Room, yeah.
Room?
Mhm. Yeah, she was
by,
in Room.
But
Sorry.
Tommy Wiseau.
yeah, I was like, what's his name?
Talking about the Oscar-nominated film Room, not
Yes.
The Room. Yeah. No, she was in that. Mm-hmm. She was also Captain Marvel. And she also
Was?
did her own feature, which I actually liked that, but I don't remember what it's called right now. It wasn't very
yeah,
memorable,
she did do
but I
that.
liked it. Anyway.
But yeah,
Blech!
Are you okay? You're gonna make it.
She's over here tongue rolling like the Migos. Blech!
Did you just inhale tomato?
what's going on with me.
Do you have corona?
Oh
She's got
no!
that
Don't
Rona.
even joke.
Okay, I think I recovered. So this movie has so Michael B. Jordan is in this movie, and I think he's great. I am inherently trusting of Michael B. Jordan. Like, I don't know why that is, but he just seems so incredibly trustworthy to me that I'm like, yes, I love this man. I support him in all he does.
Love him in Fruitvale Station. I even like him in Fant4stick, which is a terrible movie. So.
Fant4stick.
Yeah.
Who was he in that?
Oh my god, I remember when
Johnny
me and Bridget
Storm.
Oh god.
when me and Bridget watched Fruitvale Station together. That was like a whole. Bridget cried a lot.
That's a tough one.
It's a tough movie to watch.
I
That's a really good
sobbed.
movie though.
Like somebody I'd actually known had died. And then I was really worried that somebody, because we were at Madison's parents', which is also our house where we live right now. But at the time, it was not where I lived. And
Yeah.
and I sobbed so hard. I was worried someone was going to come in and be like, what the fuck is going on?
my God.
Shut up.
But that never happened because they don't care.
Yeah, it was also like really late at night. To set the mood, if you're wondering. I had to watch it for a class.
So did you like it?
Yes.
Okay.
Fruitvale Station?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's great, yeah.
It was a great film. I just cried so hard.
And Denzel Washington is really good in this movie. Not Fruitvale Station. This movie. Denzel Washington's not in Fruitvale Station.
He's also not in this movie. You're thinking of Jamie Foxx.
Why did I say Denzel Washington? What the fuck is wrong?
Systemic
like-
racism.
No, it's not.
I literally was.
Oh my
I was
god!
like,
Why did I
who-
say Denzel Washington?
I was like, who
Denzel
the
Washington
fuck?
doesn't even look
When
like
things
Jamie
are built
Foxx.
into society, they see everything the same.
Shut up! Now I look so bad. No,
Jamie Foxx was so good in this though. Like
He
it
really
took me a
was.
minute for me to be like, is this Jamie Foxx? Like
Jamie Foxx is the quadruple threat. He's like
Yes.
one of the most
Yeah.
talented
I love
performers.
him.
I think what was happening in my mind, the guy he plays, his name starts with a W, right?
That is not good enough. You just gotta take the L.
Does
No,
it?
but
Does it?
yes,
Does his name
but
start with a
here's what I
W?
was
Yes,
thinking.
his name is Johnny D, but he's also Walter.
Yeah, Walter. I can't remember his last name.
Fuck. Yeah.
But anyway, so in my mind, he was Walter.
Just take the L.
And I was going to say that he looks so much like him.
Gotta take that L.
And somehow it just happened in my
You gotta
mind.
take that
I'm
L.
taking it. Like, I'll admit
Okay,
it. But,
good.
like,
Good.
They
Good.
did cast
Why
that
did I say
perfectly,
Denzel
especially
Washington?
Brie
So weird.
Larson. Like at the end when they show the pictures, they cast everything spot on.
And
Herb was the saddest. I did
Oh,
not like to
fuck
see
me,
Herb
dude.
at
Oh
the
my
end.
God, yeah.
fuck me.
Oh my God,
we're
I
not gonna start there, are
cried.
we? Like that's
No.
so
No,
hard.
I just had
Right
to
there.
say it. It's been
And then,
on my mind.
Well, I want to talk about.
Shay Jackson Jr. is in there, too.
Mhm. He plays the
He's-
other guy.
Yeah, and he's Ice Cube's son.
Yes, he
played
sure
him in
is.
Straight Outta Compton.
Which one is Ice Cube's son?
The other guy who was on death row.
Okay, so
The
not
younger,
Herb, the other one.
younger guy.
He's a talented performer too, as well.
Yeah, he hasn't been in a whole lot, but like I
He's-
liked
he's-
him in everything he's been in. that
He's
I've seen
actually
him
pretty much like a really huge activist, so I feel like he's only going to pick movies that are kind of leaning into what he's trying to say. But I do want to say this. I want to talk about the subtleties of the movie before we get into like the meat of it. Mm-hmm. This is the only courtroom drama movie, I swear, that doesn't care about being overdramatic and emotional manipulation. This movie is so fucking subtle with its hits and its punches. Like, the biggest example of it for me is when Michael B. Jordan is walking out with Jamie Foxx's character, and then the police guard's like, if you want, you can have 5 minutes with your family. Mm-hmm. A court drama would have had to sit there with his family crying and everybody hugging and focus on that scene. A movie that wants to prove a point of the individual perspective of this lawyer, as well as the kind of, like, moments that are happening off to the side that aren't highlighted. Like, they showed Michael B. Jordan instead talking to Brie Larson's character. Mm-hmm. That movie could have been a Hallmark movie moment.
Right.
But the director was smart enough to know that it's going to be a lot more effective if we are just concentrating that in like the background without focus on it. It's a bit more powerful because we want to know what they're saying to each other, and we want to like experience like the happiness for him. But I don't think the film goers get to experience him reuniting with his family until the end of the film, and that's
Yeah.
a really awesome choice. And then the music is fucking bomb.
Yeah. And then, like, also that we don't, like, I think a lot of other movies would have sort of leaned in to try and figure out who actually killed the woman.
Oh, yeah, I know. Definitely.
And I, like, appreciated that this movie didn't do that because that's not really what it's about.
It's the most subtle
Right.
courtroom drama you'll
Yeah.
ever see. And then I love how it's literally in Alabama, but they're going to shoot everything with a cool filter on. Just to show how cold everybody is towards this whole idea of like, oh, racism's not real anymore. It's not. This is the 90s. It's not even a problem anymore. He's just a criminal. Like, Alabama, if you watch any other film where it's based in Alabama, you're going to get like orange skies and like warm atmospheres.
All nice
Most of
and
this
fuzzy.
movie is shot in cold. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I swear I thought the blue filter on my TV was on. Like, there were some moments where I just forgot. I felt like they were in like Michigan or something. And the reason for that is because that great editing choice. And then the only warmth you'll really see that's like super like obvious is when Herb is being brought down to be electrocuted. The prisoners, as well as the actual room in which he's gonna lose his life, all of that has a warm lighting to kind of show like this is somebody you should feel for. This was a good person who was sick, and he's kind of like come to terms with it and is okay with it. And he knows that he's going out with people loving him. That's why the whole scene is warm. But then the moment you pan back to the viewer box, it's cold and dark.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool. I really loved the direction choices in the film.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like the subtlety of this, especially in comparison with like most courtroom dramas, are very like loud and explosive.
Like watch Primal Fear. Like it's like that's a courtroom drama. It's like really standard. The differences are insane.
And I think it's really interesting because the characters occupying the place in that society that they do, like they aren't able to show that anger. And that anger is like if you're a black person in America, that anger can get you killed.
That anger is considers you guilty.
Right.
In some way. Like the moment you show that anger, you're just a criminal who hasn't committed the crime yet.
Yeah, and the only time when that happens is when his son stands up and he gets angry, and then you see how they like treat him when that happens.
Yeah.
I think the subtlety really like has a point to it, which is that they don't get to be angry about this.
That was really hard to watch.
It was very hard.
That scene also was one of the three like hardest scenes to watch by far. And then like, another thing too about the movie is it does show like there's a lot of people who I'm sure who already have their minds made up about what they believe would see this movie and be like, oh, it's just like all white people are bad, blah, 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 blah. There are definitely people out there who are not going to change their mind about this movie at all before they or after they see it. But it is an interesting angle that the white man who imprisoned him came out, and regardless of like all the fucking issues he has, he's like, well, I guess I should probably make a change. And this movie's all about redemption. It's not just about like justice, being that the attorney or the district attorney eventually turns at the end and files the same motion. The witness who corroborated to not be sent to the electric chair changes, because I think it's showing that it is possible to make the change.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, in a lot of cases, it hasn't been. But I think that's a lot about what the movement going on right now is about. Like, there needs to be a change, and I think people are seeing that.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think like one of the things I liked the most about this movie was how much focus we had on Herb's story.
Yeah.
And like on his being sentenced to death, especially because when you talk about the death penalty with people, sometimes you hear like, I mean, yeah, obviously I don't think innocent people should die, but like what about real murderers? And like Herb was like a person who, I mean, he did kill somebody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But he was sick, and the systems that were there failed him on getting the help that he needed.
Well, not just that.
And so like it makes a good point that like even people who are guilty don't necessarily deserve to die, and like people who are guilty, people who did do it, don't deserve to die.
Yeah.
And
at one point they say a line like, your life is more valuable than that. And that's just a good point, because like, I mean, everybody on death row that we saw wasn't there for we didn't get Ice Cube's son's story or whatever.
Well, we kind of did, actually.
Really?
Yeah, when he was
did.
talking about the police officer who said,
oh, yeah,
"So was you or wasn't
you're
you?"
right. You're right.
Mhm.
You're taking one for your brother or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's showing that like their life had value, and regardless, nobody's going to see it.
Well, and not only that, I always bring this argument up with capital punishment, right?
Yeah.
If somebody truly did commit a crime like that heinous, wouldn't you want them to just have to live with that decision if they were that horrible person?
Right.
And then the other thing is, no matter how sure you are, capital punishment has the chance of killing somebody who isn't responsible for what happened, whether it be from their own mental exclusions, like not being totally healthy, to being incorrectly convicted, like an incorrect conviction.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's a statistic at the end of this movie that's like
I've heard that statistic
one out of
before,
9.
yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that before too, but like 1 out of 9, I think is.
Yeah, 1 in 9.
Which is like a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot
too
of
many.
mistakes
That's
to
too
make.
fucking many.
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
And
It's just absolutely insane and unacceptable.
And then the worst part is that's only the number that when people go back
Yeah.
and they figured things out from the case or something's come clear, they're like, oh, I guess we killed that guy who wasn't guilty. Think about all the situations where nobody figured it out.
Yeah, nobody.
And that
Or
person
nobody-
still wasn't guilty.
Or nobody gave a fuck to figure it out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild. And I like the fact that, obviously it's a true story. And of course there's going to be things in the film that are like built up for drama.
Yeah.
But it really does kind of give it to you straightforward. Mm-hmm. Like, there's definitely moments where we could have had a more like Rockefeller awesome lawyer moment. And they're like, no, this lawyer in this world, this black Harvard lawyer is not going to do well. Like, he's going to get shit on a bunch before he can ever make anything happen for himself.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
the
and-
strip search scene.
Yeah.
That was just heavy. It was like
I was
demeaning
so
him
upset.
right away and like it showed us right away how he was going to be treated for the entirety of the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's what they do to prisoners when they enter the prison. So, yeah.
Right.
It just more taps on like the guilty until proven innocent mindset
Right.
that the whole justice system had in this movie and in the real world.
And I think something the movie did really well was sort of having them losing
All the time.
like in the losing of their first like motion for the retrial before it ended up going to the state Supreme Court, so like they lose.
Yeah.
And sort of having that be almost the climax of the movie, because it just like makes the point that like this is a struggle, and it makes it clear that this isn't just like, oh, in this one town these people are corrupt and against them. It's like a widespread issue.
And that's why when you kept texting us asking if the movie had a sad ending,
Yeah.
neither of us wanted to say, because
I in
you
general
really
don't want to spoil movies.
No, and you really don't know until right
Yeah.
there that it's going to be a happy ending.
Yeah.
Or I guess as happy of an ending as it could have been.
I mean, it was interesting to see at the end the third person on death row. I can't remember the person's name now. He was released 20 years after.
20
that's
fucking
30.
years after.
30 years.
30 years after, when the only evidence was that he looked like a man that could do it.
And like so much of the time too, I've read like several stories about this. Like people who are on death row for so long, they get almost no compensation for having been in there all the time. Because
They
like in
kinda-
theory,
They
Right.
talked about it at the end. They're
They
like,
literally,
Yeah.
they've rationalized in their heads to be like,
Right.
well, you were wards of the state. We paid for your food and your board. And I'm like, yeah, in fucking incarceration, you dickhead.
and also like you mess somebody up forever. Like in the ending, they were talking about how Johnny D, like, it weighed heavy on him and definitely put him in an early grave. I mean, he got 20 years post being out, but still.
Yeah, I mean, like dementia, like the isolation
Mm-hmm.
that you would have to go through in prison, especially being on death row,
Yeah.
it could easily have caused that dementia,
Oh yeah, 100%.
or and if not like caused it,
Sped
per
it
se,
up.
but like
Yeah. Worsened it.
worsened it for sure.
Yeah, 'cause you have a cognitive decline when you're, constantly faced with the same thing every day, no change in scenery. I mean, they've shown that in studies before. But yeah, I mean, the thing about this movie though is it really kind of speaks for itself. I don't know if there's a whole lot you can draw that you wouldn't see. I think
Yeah.
that's what's so great about it is it defines its message and everything so directly
yeah.
and so artistically that it resonates with you, and you also like it's an experience where all the reincorporation is rewarded for you.
Yeah, and I mean, and it makes its message really clear, and it really says what it wants to say, but it also doesn't like beat you over the head with it. It just kind of shows you.
Absolute
It shows you
subtlety.
and doesn't tell you. And I mean, the script for this movie is so good. Like the writing is
Oh,
so good.
yeah.
I don't know
Absolutely.
how much is like taken from the book or taken from actual things that he said, but there's this line, which really like sums up my
You might be
feelings.
stealing Franny's line. Franny
You
wrote
might
down
be
a line.
stealing my line that I
I
wrote
don't know if I
down.
am.
Let's see Franny's line. See if it's the same. Let's have her read this line. 'Cause
Okay.
She was so excited about this.
I literally have a note. It's part of his big his big prologue at the end. Hope allows us to push forward even when the truth is distorted by the people in power. I love that one. That one rings true so much right now.
Yeah, I like that one. That wasn't mine.
Okay, good. But it
was from
like,
that same. It was from that same speech.
Yeah.
But there's a like he says, something about showing people unmerited grace, and like that's what I really like about. That's like a line that really stuck out to me, and like it sums up my feelings on sort of the death penalty and on incarceration generally. Is that like we have the capacity to give people that grace, even if they have done something wrong. Like that doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Because, like, no one should deserve to die. No one should deserve the conditions that prison puts you in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it fully depends on the prison. Because, I mean, like, I think that there's some big fat cats out there that essentially get to go to a country club after ripping people off. But for the most part,
fuck them though.
Especially private prison
rich
systems.
People prisons.
Especially like private prisons, like privately owned prisons, they're disgusting.
Yes,
I mean,
they're terrible.
The horrible things that happen to these people, it's fucking unfounded.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane that in the year 2020, this shit is still going on and still disgusting prisons that like rival what you'd hear about insane asylums back in the fucking 1900s.
But one thing I do want to say too is I really enjoyed like one of the most like outstanding things for me is I grew up in an area where like I was always around African Americans, and one of the most like exact like nostalgic moments in the film for me was when everybody was crammed in this tiny ass house, and of course it's like you just feel the love coming off the screen. Like all these people genuinely care about each other. Not even all of them are family, but it's because they have that same commonality of like the pursuit of happiness. Like they don't want to be bothered. They don't want to bother.
Yeah,
they just want to live their lives.
There's like a really like kind of like funny but like also heartwarming moment where like he takes one drink of whatever he's drinking and then instantly she's like filling it up.
Absolutely.
I'm like, hell yeah.
Well, guys, what else do we have to say about it? It's like I said, it very much speaks for itself.
I mean, it really speaks for itself. It's really good. I don't have anything that like I don't like about this movie.
I think this movie is an important message for right now. If it would have came out in 2020, like Logan said this to me, it would have won everything because it's such a good message.
Especially considering what's happened since, like and how
Mm-hmm.
effective the message is. I do want to say this though. It is listed in some places as a mystery thriller. This movie's
what the fuck?
This
That's
movie,
so weird.
because they want to pull the whole murder aspect for marketing.
Yeah.
Right.
This movie, I don't want to use the word conventional, but you know where it's going. Like, the story is not going to throw you for a loop. You're not going to find out that fucking Michael B. Jordan was the killer or something crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's not like a plot twist about this movie.
If you're going for that of like the murder mystery court film, there are so many other movies.
Don't go for that. Go for learning these people's perspective.
I just want people to know what they get into, so they're not disappointed.
But I will say this movie is free everywhere right now.
That's what I was about to say.
So, which is why we picked it actually, because we wanted to like do this episode and we wanted to like highlight Black and African American stories, and we thought that it would be really good to pick something that literally everyone can access right now. And I think there are a couple other movies that are all free right now too.
There's Selma, which is a big one. I'm not actually too into Selma, but I mean it's got a good message,
I haven't seen Selma. I will admit that I haven't seen it.
There's a couple other ones as well. I know that Harriet's free some places. Not that it's like entirely relevant, but still like a black cinema kind of thing. The next movie we're going to talk about is only like $3.99 on Amazon. So
yeah,
if you guys want to watch that too.
And again, an important message.
Absolutely. I think though this film is very, very, very good and teaches us a big lesson, I think Blindspotting, which we'll get into, is just so much more on the message of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think this movie is really good, and I think it's really worth a watch, and I think that it's very like artistically created, and you can tell that there's a lot of thought into the subtlety, like into the subtleties, into the details of this movie. Like something that struck me was like how stark white the prison was.
Yep.
Like everything was white, and then like when you see their hands, like when they're like clinking the cups.
Yeah, or when they're going out to shake the hand of.
Right. Yeah.
Good point.
And like scenes like that were really powerful.
Absolutely.
And really good.
All right, let's do your ratings.
Who should go first?
I'll start. 9 out of 10. I loved this movie. It felt very much like a documentary to me, which I love documentaries. Yeah, and I think the message is just so important, and I feel like it almost brought me to tears multiple times.
Just definitely brought me to tears.
Yeah, it definitely brought me to tears.
It was
too.
like
Its emotional manipulation isn't cheap. It earns every tear out of you.
And it just really made me think even more on just the privilege I've had in America being a white woman. And it's a sad thing that that's the case, and it really just makes you think,
I guess I'll go next. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 on a cinematic level, just because like it is. I mean, man, this sounds like I'm being such an asshole. Really hear me out when I say this. It's very conventional as far as like the story, like, and where it goes, but it's a very powerful message. Like, this is the kind of movie where when you watch it, right after you're like, I need to go do something. So on a cinematic level, it's a 7 out of 10. On a humanitarian level, and what it can do for people when they watch it, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
I want Bridget to go next because I'm trying to find something. Bridget!
So
Ooh.
I,
Sorry.
Ooh.
I'm gonna give it a 9.5 out of 10. Just because it was so powerful, and it caused me to cry like 3 different times, which is
I cried more this time than I did when I first saw it.
yeah, like it's not hard to make me cry, but also it still
matters if you cry, though.
it still matters, yeah. And I just really it made me think more about like sort of death row, like what the death penalty means.
Yeah.
And so I just really think it was very, very well crafted.
Absolutely.
I would give this movie an A. I really liked it, and I think it's a really important movie, and it has a lot to say about both like capital punishment and also about incarceration as a whole. And if those are like, this is just a minute to like plug things that I'm interested in and things that I think other people should like be reading about if you're interested in this like movement. So I would urge you, like, if this movie made you think, you should read about the prison abolition movement and about the abolition of police movements, because that's really interesting, and there's a lot of interesting work, and people who are a lot smarter than me have a lot better things to say about it, but I would agree with those things. And it's something that you hear when we say like, oh, like prisons should be abolished. You're like, well, how can we do that? Well, there are ways that we can do that, and they exist, and people have thought of them, and they're smarter than me. And I would 10 out of 10 recommend Angela Davis. She's like my favorite, but she has a book called Are Prisons Obsolete? And it's really good. And also The New Jim Crow. You should read that too. So those are my 2 reading recommendations for you all.
And I also want to say,
regardless
of your political opinion, to even argue that the prison system isn't a working case at its own is just, I mean, I'm not going to apologize for the opinion that I think that is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Regardless of what political opinion you are, regardless of what you think of the police or the prisons, you cannot sit there and say that this is working.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest message I want to pass off, is like, if it's not working, something needs to be working.
Yeah. And like I said, if that's something that you're like interested in, or you don't understand and want to understand, or think that I'm wrong about, like, you can definitely send me an email. I'll just refer you to people who are smarter than me, but I'll talk about it with anybody.
Don't leave it in the comments, because we don't want you to have your comment deleted. Email that shit to us.
Yeah. Send me an email. We can talk about it.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
I think we're going
all
to take
right.
a quick pause. When we come back, we're going
Quick
to
sec.
do
Yes.
blind spotting.
Heck yeah.
Hey guys, if you're like me, Just Mercy has gotten you thinking about what you can do for prisoners on death row, or just in prisoners in general. And I don't have all the answers, but I do have something that you could do to help brighten their day and make them feel less alone. The website writeaprisoner.com is a really great place to be able to find someone to have to be your pen pal in prison. They have profiles and their hometown and where they are, and you could even visit them if you feel comfortable with that and you're close enough. It's just something that's really important to help people feel less alone when they're in isolation, and I definitely will be taking advantage of the site. Thank you so much, guys.
And we'll put that link in the description.
Yeah, we will.
Awesome.
In the pod.
So we're back.
And we're back.
Hello.
Hey.
All right. So
Hello.
we're going to talk about what movie?
Blindspotting.
Yeah, not Spotlight. For
Not-
some reason, there's a big mix-up with those movies.
Not The Blind Side,
Not The Blind Side.
Definitely
which is
not
what my
The
mom
Blind
thought we were
Side.
watching.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh, that's such a good movie." And
She's like, that's perfect for this. And like, no, it's not.
No, it isn't. It's
Like,
not that good.
No, it ain't.
It does have what's her face in it though. I love her.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, dude. The Heat. Oh my god. It's so
I
fucking
love
funny.
Sandra Bullock. She's funny.
Love Sandra Bullock. Miss
I like-
Congeniality. I don't care.
Yes.
Judge me. I love that shit.
What's that one that she's in? The Proposal.
I hate that movie.
I don't know. It's probably not that good, but I just remember liking it a lot when I was a young woman.
The only good part about that movie is
Young
Betty
woman.
White. Anyway,
But that's not what we're talking about.
yeah, we're talking about Blindspotting.
Blindspotting.
The year it came out, I was working at a video store. Yet again, another movie that happened while I was working at the video store. And I knew it was great because I actually saw a screener for it for free. And I was thinking, oh, it's going to come to home video soon because it wasn't in theaters that long at all. And then it came, and I thought, oh, this movie is they're gonna get like 1 million copies. We had one fucking copy of
One?
Blindspotting in our store, and the first person who rented it never returned it.
I mean,
So every single time somebody would come in and be like, "What do you recommend?" I'd have to fight my instinct of being like Blindspotting because it's not there. So like they could watch Black Klansman, which is great, or they could watch Searching, which is great, but like Blindspotting was one of my favorite, if not my favorite movie of that year.
yeah.
The editing is fucking choice. But
Yeah.
I always start off these conversations. I want to hear from you guys who have seen it. Franny's seen it for a second time, but you guys saw it for the first time recently. So I want to hear what you guys think about it.
I mean, I'll say that if I rented this movie at a video store and watched it, I would probably not return it also. I would probably keep that
Yeah.
one for me.
So good.
I mean,
I mean, if it's that good, you know?
Madison knows all about borrowing things and not returning them.
Wow.
Ooh.
That sounded like a call out, but really it's just the fact that I owe a lot of money to our local library.
There's
I was-
in my fucking copy of Good Time.
Oh my God, shut
you guys
up.
have. We
Oh
gave
God.
it back to you. Yeah,
Whatever.
okay, buddy.
You have it now.
Do you know how meticulous I am about movies? I was a manager at a fucking movie store, a video store.
I think you just need like a checkout log for like your collection.
'Cause
Like
I
if
want-
a friend's
I want
borrowing it,
to
they gotta
share-
sign, leave
I
their
want
ID.
to share my collection, but
Leave their ID.
I ain't gonna bat an eye about being like, where's your rental at? You're about to get a late fee.
But yeah, so my first impression of this movie, I thought it was gonna be a lot more like serious. Like I didn't expect it to be as funny as it was.
Yeah.
That
Great
was
humor
something
in
that
the
was
film.
very striking to me, and it was like it was really funny, and the dialogue was really sharp, but in like it also like people actually talk that way.
It was very much like the film makes a good job of like modernizing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the transitions. I mean, there's actual cross cutting in the film. Just wanted to point that out. Bridget pointed that out too.
Yeah.
But then I got told no. And
Well,
then
no. What you're wrong when you said it, but the beginning of the film when they keep switching what side is bad, part of Compton, Oakland, and I know I was thinking of a different movie. And then what the good side was, they would switch alternatively on which side was what. That's cross cutting. But one of the great things was like even the transitions and this text on the screen
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like Facebook meme text, like
Yeah.
black outline sometimes with like like black letters sometimes with white outline or purple outline.
Yeah.
The editing transitions were like Snapchat videos in a way, like like just very like
It grabs you. When I started watching it, I didn't plan on sitting down and watching it. I literally came in the room to say goodnight to Logan. It was
Can I
like,
tell you a secret, Franny?
what?
I knew you were gonna watch it if I put it on.
Fuck you. And
it's too
he
good.
was like, he had just started it, and I came in the room to say goodnight because I had to fucking like work the next day, and it was like 2 a.m. And I was
But
like,
I wasn't done watching movies yet.
I know. I was like, I'm just gonna sit down and watch a second of it, and then I watched the whole fucking thing. Didn't move once, and like I'm normally a person that like ends up pausing a movie because like I need a second to like go do something. No, I sat through the whole fucking thing both times. It's amazing. It's such a good movie. It like grabs you in and it like takes you on a roller coaster ride the whole time. The pacing does not slow.
So, Bridget, what's something like right off the bat? We don't have to get into particulars because I just kind of wanted to feel when you think of Blindspotting. What is like the big draw for you? Like, what was the big thing that like kind of isolated it for you? Like on a surface level, like what about the filmmaking was really creative for you?
About the filmmaking itself.
Yeah.
I really thought the characters were really dynamic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So real.
I really enjoyed those. I also enjoyed, and this is probably jumping the gun a little bit, but that
Spoilers for Blindspotting, everybody, as if like you don't know our podcast is
Right.
entirely spoilers.
but that like rapping he did at the cop.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's some of the most, I mean, like, since we are talking about it, that's like, for me, the thing where, like, you know, like when you close your eyes and you like see the outline of an image a little bit, like, especially if you're dehydrated, you kind of see like the
Yeah.
neon. That's what that scene did to me. Like, it's just permanently there.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
stress and the stress and the fear of, and what's so funny is you're not afraid, like in society, you're supposed to be afraid of like the black guy with the gun, right? Like that's a systemic racism that's set in place. But you're in fear for him ruining his life because of this shit piece of, like, this absolute piece of fucking garbage.
Right.
And it's a really cool dynamic switch. But what's funny, I think the movie plays onto that with the whole Blindspotting aspect, where if you were like a closet racist, even if you didn't know it, there are people who watch this film and the scene with the cop, they might be seeing the other perspective. They might be seeing the vase and not the face.
Yeah.
They're seeing it as like, this dude's unhinged from everything that's been going on for him, and he's about to murder a cop in his house. But in reality, it's like, no. He's telling an oppressor what he's done to his community and to him individually.
Right.
But you only see that if you understand it.
And and just so like thinking about that scene, this movie is just like really well written. Like I really like I said before, the dialogue is really good, and I like the way that sort of the dialogue kind of flows. And
Nothing's corny, which is really
a lot of times when people try to like capture that sort of like fast speaking, back and forth dialogue,
try
like
to catch
that,
realism within comedy.
it doesn't quite play off, but it works really well. And that probably is because the people who wrote this movie were the people who starred in this movie and have been best friends for a long time.
Raphael.
I don't know his last name.
And
David Diggs.
And David Diggs.
But, like,
of course,
even
the beautiful, the magnificent.
He is. He's a magnificent
The legendary.
man.
He's the fucking best. I love his shit. He needs to
Yeah.
do more.
I
Yeah.
love
Even the
David
parts
He's
that
so
like
good.
feel like are the comic relief aren't corny. Like the salon scene, I love that scene.
Yeah.
I think that sets up who this character is so fast, and I like it.
This film is like absolutely indie darling gold. Like, it gives you so many vibes of like, yes, it has a really important message, but the scenes where you're like attaching to the characters and how real they are is so like Clerks, Swingers, Train Spotting. Like, you really like the SLC Punk. You like connect with the characters on who they are, and sometimes you take away from the fact that it's a narrative because you just feel like you're hanging out with these people.
Yeah,
Right?
that's something. Bless you. That's something it does really well. Is it just feels like you're like hanging out. Which is like a vibe that I like a lot.
And like, no one's underwritten,
Right.
which is really cool.
No,
Yeah,
even-
all of the characters, even the characters who don't get a
Yeah.
lot of screen time, like the main character's mom.
Yeah, or
Like,
like
she
the
doesn't get a lot of-
girlfriends, like the white guy's like girlfriend.
Yeah, like they don't get
Yeah.
an abundance of screen
No.
time, but they're still like really strong, fleshed out characters.
And even like the character at the party who gets beat up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you get his perspective because it's like, okay, he's somebody who in society he had to prove that he was smart, right? Because
Right.
of his specific scenario. And then the character of the what's his name? Not Colin, but
yeah.
what
Hold
is
on.
the character's name? Raphael's character.
God, it's gonna eat me alive if
I
I can't
know.
think of it. It hasn't been that long since we watched it either. God, what's his name?
It's not Colin, right? Even though they keep
No,
saying
Colin
No.
is
I
David
got it.
Diggs'
Just give me
character.
1 second. Miles.
Miles.
Thank
Miles,
you. I knew it
yes.
was something with an M, and I
I
couldn't.
knew Colin was in there. I just didn't remember which one was which. So the Miles character has the opposite effect, where he has to act like a hard ass because the neighborhood he grew up in, and that dynamic is so well written because it's like, okay, you want to stick with Miles because Miles is the character you've been attached to this whole film. Miles does genuinely care for like Colin and makes
And
bad
for his
decisions,
community.
but he's genuinely like, he's an Oakland boy. He's very real with his community, so you want to side with him. But at the
But
same
then
time,
in that situation, it's like, okay, what does it look like here? You know what I mean?
And not
And
to
like-
mention like what is acceptable. Like, it was kind of was a culture vulture situation where, I mean, I get that you grew up in Oakland, but
Yeah, it's like
the
a weird
dude
divide
doesn't
where-
know you specifically. And
Right.
you're
And like, how much do you look to this dude?
yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Because that dude doesn't know that kind of is his culture too.
Yeah.
Like he's not.
And even then, it's also like there's so many iterations of people who aren't that way and pretend to be that way, and that's exemplified
Right.
throughout the whole party where the dude's like, "Found my home in
The neck
Oakland. I would
tattoo.
move here
Yeah.
from Portland.
The
This is my
matching
home.
fucking neck tattoos.
Don't put your
Yeah.
drink on that stump. That's an actual Oakland oak tree."
Yeah.
Like fucking die,
And like,
please.
yeah, I mean, like the layers of this movie is really interesting because on one hand, it's about what Colin is experiencing, like just about to come off of his parole and seeing this shooting, but then also like the gentrification that's going on in Oakland as a whole, and like. I don't know. Like, if you've ever lived in a gentrified neighborhood or a neighborhood being gentrified, which I have,
Same.
that's like very real. The way that people are trying to navigate, like that experience.
The quick stop shit.
Because here's the thing: no matter where you're from, most of the time, if you've been there for a long time, there's a sense of pride in your community.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if it's like the sense like we're the worst. That's us. Like, I'm not saying that's what this
Right,
is,
but it's
but you
like-
can be from a total like cornfield shithole town and be like, that's my cornhole. Like,
Right.
Like,
Like-
your 3 pizza places, that's your fucking 3 pizza places, Bridget. Like,
Right.
nobody
No,
can
there's more
talk
than
shit on
3.
it. Okay, fine,
There's
whatever.
4.
4, got you. Anyway,
I think.
so when somebody comes
Fuck,
to
I
like,
don't know.
when there's the gentrified whole aspect of like neighborhoods and everything. I mean, it is jarring. Like it's weird to see people move into your neighborhood and then start to call it their own.
And then other people who have lived there for so long have to move out.
Not only that, but like booted out.
Right.
They're like, oh, now all the city who would never come down on you for being like a week late on something, now all of a sudden they're finding any way they can to like fuck
Right.
you out of it. They're finding any way for you to get arrested for a parking ticket or do this or do the other. They're going to bring up the price of the neighborhood on purpose. So people who are trying to move back to their old neighborhood can't. Like it's a very real thing. But at the same time, is it always a bad thing? I don't know. But I think that's part of the question that the film poses.
And I mean, like, and it plays into the film's sort of larger look at identity and like what does it mean? What do our identities mean to us? And like, how do we have? How can we both have privilege and also be underprivileged in the same identity, and like how does that work?
Also,
And I'm not sure what the film's answers to those questions are, but I think that they're really interesting questions about how do we move in different spaces and what does that look like?
let me just say this, by the way, because I realize we always do this too. There are some people who listen to this podcast that don't actually watch the movie and they go in for the spoiler talk. For one, watch the movie.
Yeah.
2,
Watch both of these movies,
let me explain to you what
please.
actually the plot is, because we've been going on with that. What the plot is. The idea is that the character Colin, or David Diggs, however you want to put it, he's getting off of parole, like Madison was saying, and he's got like a couple days left, and he's driving home, and he witnesses.
Yeah, so like his halfway house. He's trying to make his halfway house curfew.
He witnesses a disgusting display of police brutality as a police officer shoots an unarmed black man.
Who's running away from the scene?
Yeah.
And
saying
has- and-
don't shoot.
Yeah,
Don't shoot.
saying don't
Yeah.
shoot.
Don't shoot, of course. I mean,
And-
the film, then you kind of see like the unraveling of what that means for him as a character. The callousness, I mean, be honest, of the Miles character.
Yeah.
Even though he wants to show support, he says things in the film like they're going to show him in his jumpsuit, blah, blah, blah.
Which
like,
is a good point. Yeah,
There's
like
compassion
Yeah.
there. There's genuine, but I feel like he does. It's the perfect example of he can be compassionate and not get it.
yeah.
Like,
And like it's actually really interesting in the film because like I do remember seeing like trailers and stuff for this movie now that we've actually watched it, and you almost kind of get the impression that it's going to be about the incident itself of this man getting shot, and like
which most of the time I hate that, but that was brilliant because I think the movie's
Yeah.
better when you don't know what's going to happen.
yeah, I agree, but and it's really frustrating, but it also makes a really good point that like we don't really get to see the aftermath of this person getting shot on him. Well, obviously him, we know what the but like his family, like we don't get to see. Like there's not really a fight for justice for him because he's a felon. Like that's that's a point that's made in the film, is that he was a felon and he didn't get to see justice, and there were no protests for him and things like that. And so it's like, it's interesting that that's not the focus of the movie, because what the movie is more about is how like that sort of that the trauma that racism has, and like knowing that those things happen. And obviously, like, I don't understand that personally, but like the effects of that are what the movie is focused on, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I think that it's fair to say, like, this is a weird comparison, but I think it's going to make a lot of sense. So if you watch a movie like The Lovely Bones, now granted it's about the death of a child, but it's about the death of a white person. Mm-hmm. There is a rippling after effect through all the characters throughout the whole film. When this man dies who's unarmed and is murdered, you know, there's an after effect within specifically the black community of the film, within some parts of Oakland, but overall it's business as usual.
Yeah.
So
And-
that draws a really distinct message as well about, like, just because this happens all the time, you know, people kind of brush it off their shoulder, but the movie makes the point that, like, no, you should not fucking do that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Colin's character brings it up, but the way that he brings it up is like so casual,
So casual,
even though it's affecting him and like weighing on him heavily.
Because it's just not systemically set up for him to bring it up, you know, upset or like make a big fuss about it to people, because for one, he's on parole, so he's not going to call the cops.
Right.
And two,
it was
he says
he says it in the movie. He's like, what am I supposed to do? Call the cops and be like, hi, I'd like to report a murder. Yeah, I was one of your guys out here. Like,
I'm also a felon driving out after curfew. Like,
yeah,
They show like the callousness of like the surrounding world really well with this one scene where it's the guy that got shot, his memorial, and then just like a group of like white kids walking past it, and it reminded me a lot of this photo that was kind of like trending that I saw, and I believe it took place in Cincinnati, of like just like these white kids like having like dinner at like this like outdoor seating, and then like there's like a fence, and behind it is like the protest going on downtown.
I've seen that too.
It just like shows how there is two different worlds going on.
And then there's the interesting aspect of Miles' kid.
Yeah.
Which is really, that's, out of everything in the movie, that's a real perspective turner. If you have opinions that aren't within the line of, you know, police brutality is wrong and all this other, like, if you don't see the seriousness of the situation at hand, like across, you know, the world right now with George Floyd and everything, the child in this film and his involvement and what happens to him, you know, as far as like emotionally, and when he finds the gun and when he's taught all these things, that will change things for you.
Yeah, and like the scene of him finding that gun is really interesting, because it's like, you know, you're like Miles's desperation to be seen as like, you know, hard, or be seen as like town, you know, and then like to not be seen as a hipster, to be seen as a gentrifier, which leads to him buying this gun in order to like posture that image, is directly harming the black people in his lives, like his son and his girlfriend, or I don't know if they're married.
Girlfriend.
I think it is his girlfriend.
Yeah.
They make a point to say it, yeah.
So
also,
like
those two are
it's
adorable.
really interesting.
Side message. Those two
Yeah,
are
that
adorable.
kid is really cute.
Fucking,
God.
I know, dude.
He's adorable.
I can't handle it. And then that scene where he goes, when he's like punching on Colin,
yeah, and he
then
says, "Don't
Colin's-
shoot."
And he points.
Yeah, and Colin's like, "Hey, stop that!" Like very
and
firmly.
points at him.
Yeah.
And of course the kid throws up his hands and says, "Don't shoot." And you're like, "Fuck." And the worst part is like, we see it now, and we as an audience see it because we understand the message of the movie and like everything, but the characters within the film are like, no, this is just what you have to do. Like,
Right.
His
the
mom was
mother's
like, "Oh, are you
Oh, you're
practicing?"
practicing? Like, oh, that's great. Well, he's not old enough for the pamphlet yet, but and then of course, like, you know, Miles' mother's the same way, where it's just like, oh, you got to get him started on that stuff early, and it's like, it's like literally, it's like shaving.
Yeah.
For people. It's like the most common thing. You got to learn how to clean your ears. You got to learn how to deal with the fucking police.
Right.
It's systemic. And it's disgusting. And you see it in the film, and it's really fucking hard to watch, but it's really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found, on a different subject, I found the character of Colin's girlfriend really interesting. I can't
what is
remember
her
what her
name?
name.
Val.
Val.
Yep.
She was in Vampire Diaries.
She was a
She played
fucking bitch.
Ketsia.
Like, and like you get where you get where she's coming from, in that like she wants him to, you know, turn his life around, and like the event that got him arrested, that fight, was like something that was really impactful to her.
But she can't see the systemic
Right. She's
issues
not able
that
to
are
see
leading
that.
him to things like that.
Yeah.
She can't
Yeah.
see the fact that it happens to him in some ways, or he's put into these situations because of the color of his skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she wants him to be respectable.
Yeah. She wants him to cut his hair, and
Right.
she wants him to. And there was another thing I was thinking about in regards to the flaming hipster scene, which is like one of the best scenes in indie film I've seen in a while. The flaming hipster scene's fucking amazing.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
So Colin goes to jail. Miles does not.
Right.
That right there
Right.
is something that's not even really even talked about. Like it's something that happened, but like we're so on the trail of understanding what this movie is at this point that we don't even stop to think about that either. It's like, oh wait, why wasn't Miles arrested too? He beat the fuck out of this
I
kid.
didn't even think about it until the second watch.
Yeah, I was thinking
like,
about
good
that too,
fucking
like-
point.
And you know, it is true that maybe he visited him because of guilt and left some stuff on his books. But at the same time, I think the character of Miles is the exact example of like has the best intentions, really does, but doesn't understand. And I wonder if some people could make that argument with Val. But at the same time, I feel like Val maybe has that perspective, but she is the one who actually abandoned him.
And
Yeah.
there's
So for people
also-
who are sympathetic to her, I have that bit of annoyance because it may be the situation where she doesn't understand. Maybe she did want the best for him, but she ultimately deserted him.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah, she
moments
really
where
did.
like she comes off as almost a little like racist or just like insensitive.
Well, I think
of it,
that's
too,
kind of the
and, like,
message of like pretty
Yeah.
much anybody you know who isn't
But
in that
it's just, like,
situation
Yeah.
I
can
know.
come off that way. Like
And it's just like another person whose like intentions aren't that, but like so many of us were told
Yeah,
that like
and-
talking like that's okay, and like watched our parents act like that, and
like
blah blah blah.
A buddy of ours really highlights that idea where he was looking for a job
Yeah,
and he's black. I mean, obviously I wouldn't bring up the story if he wasn't.
yeah,
And he kept not getting the job because of the way like his hair was and conducted himself.
Right.
And I remember like even me, I was like, well, dude, why don't you just like cut your hair and like just play the part, and then
Yeah.
once you get the job, just like go back to the way you were. And he's like, I shouldn't have to do that.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean
And
that's
he's
true.
right.
Like,
He's fucking absolutely right.
yeah. And at the time, like I remember like just my own ignorance, like being kind of annoyed. I was like, why is he so against that? But then like watching this movie and everything, like you can grow and evolve and change your opinions
Absolutely.
on stuff. And I feel like these movies definitely have made me see things differently.
Mm-hmm. I think.
and just
go ahead.
sorry, go
No,
ahead.
you go ahead.
And just like Val is not white. I don't know what. Right, like
Well,
she's not a white
she
woman.
passes though.
Yeah, but she passes. But she doesn't have
Yeah.
she
She looks
experiences
more like-
she experiences more privilege than he does, but
Yeah.
but still isn't a white woman. I don't think she is.
Well, she passes. White,
Yeah,
so
but like
it's
but
the same thing with the character of Miles. That actor's not entirely white either, but he passes.
well,
as
yeah,
white.
yeah, but just to say that the way identities overlap, and like even though she can be part of this group too, she still perpetuates
the
those
same
societal like standards on him.
because she passes. Because
Right.
she doesn't. When she hears somebody like, "Oh, this happened to me," like when she literally says to him, like, "Why don't you take responsibility for your actions?" It's like you don't get it because you pass like we do. Like you're not understanding the full scope of the
Right.
situation, and you're ignorant to the fact that it's not just about taking responsibility for your actions. Sometimes you get fucking fed up with taking responsibility of other people's actions or other
Yeah.
people's emotions because they don't know how to deal with like an African American person. They don't know
Yeah.
what to think or say about it. And that's on them. And a lot of the time it falls on the African American person to be super like understanding and grown up about it. It's like, no, you should fucking be pissed.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why in that scene it makes a lot of sense that he doesn't just let her. Like it'd be so much easier if he was like, yeah, I'm sorry, but he's like, no, it wasn't my fault.
And it's like
Right.
such like the argument that you see like, well, these African American people get shot 'cause they're resisting arrest and like shit like that, like that argument you hear, like, why don't they just not resist? Well, what the fuck would you do if
It
you're
also
getting
seems
wrongly
to not make a
fucking-
difference either way.
right?
So.
And
Right.
also, what the
Right.
fuck would you do if you're getting wrongly arrested for something?
Yeah, like
and shit like that,
like I can have an argument with a cop and
Yeah,
not worry
exactly.
for my fucking life.
Exactly.
And
Like, exactly. You don't have to just roll over and tell a cop he's perfectly fine to arrest you.
I've never heard more gasps though in watching the movie with you guys than for one, the scene with the child with the gun.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then also when Colin had the gun in his coat and the police officer was rolling up by him.
Yeah,
Oh
that
my
scene
God.
was so stressful.
Mhm.
I was
And why
so
the fuck
stressed.
did he get like a cop pulling up on him like that? He was just
Right,
walking.
exactly.
Like if one of us in this room were just walking alone at night, that would never happen.
Right.
Definitely
It's just
not.
disgusting.
Yeah, and yeah, and so like I think the faces, like the blind spotting metaphor is just so good here, and like it makes so much sense. And like, you know, what do people see you as? What do you see them as? How do you see yourself? And I think that's like what's running through the whole movie with every character, and not just like Colin, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because like you have that with Miles' character, and you have that with Val's character, and so like that's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And just like,
And then even the
no, you can go.
And I was gonna say, even like the cop at the end, like, you know, he doesn't see himself as
And then you wonder why
this guy.
I obviously you should blame him, but then it really builds the question, like, is this cop somebody who was a blatant racist before he became an officer? I don't think he would know that. I don't think he in his heart was like, I hate black people.
Yeah,
I think he'd be the first to tell you, like, I
doesn't-
don't have an issue. But
he doesn't see himself that way, but how do other people perceive him,
And
and
then
how is he
became-
actually?
and then also the system, the way things are set up, the police force in general.
yeah, and I mean that's really emphasized in the film too, with like when he's like entering the garage and like you see the like Blue Lives Matter plaque and like the back the blue like signs. It's
Yeah.
like it's very clear like
Or when they go in the gas
this
station
is a system.
and they're talking about how all police officers are from a different county. Like
Yeah.
the police officers that work in Oakland have to be
Yeah.
from somewhere else. That's like like the fact that that's a rule is indicative to the fact that like police officers mistreat people in Oakland, especially
Yeah.
people
Right.
of color. And then like it also just shows like a disdain, like the way things are run. They're like, we don't want to involve law enforcement. We don't want to involve the government. I've been to gas stations where there's no tax. You pay whatever it's listed
Right.
on there, and they do whatever they do on their back end to make it profitable for them without having to involve the
Right.
government. And you know what? Good for them, because it's a disenfranchised area where people are fighting to get by.
right. What were you gonna say, Bridget? You were gonna say something.
So I was just gonna say, like, even just that scene of him calling Val and being like, when you look at me, do you see the fight?
Yeah.
And sort of like her no longer being able to see him before that moment is sort of like the blind spotting the
Yeah, I mean, she can
Faces
only
her
see him
face.
as that violent person who
And
is
it
in that.
kind of plays a
that
parallel
situation.
to like the cop and his wife, because like his wife leaves him, and like it plays a parallel, like nobody can see him past, which they shouldn't.
Yeah.
But like it's just interesting. That
What do you
they
mean
did
the
it like
wife
that.
leaves him? What are you talking about?
The wife, the husband, like the.
Yeah, they're just moving out. They're still
Oh,
together.
I thought.
Yeah, I think they were just
I
moving.
think they were because
I thought they made it pretty clear that they were getting a divorce with him, like the
Oh, I
picture
don't know.
frame down and like him like clearly distraught in the garage.
You
I didn't
might,
really
you
think
might
that way,
actually be
but-
right, but she wasn't leaving him. But you might be right about
I thought
the,
she was leaving
No,
him.
but you might be right about the picture frame thing. You might be right about the way she perceives him.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you're not right about the moving out thing. 'cause
Okay,
she-
I
'cause he-
thought I misread that.
that's fine.
I think I was just wanting to read my narrative as that wife
Well,
getting
your
the fuck out
narrative's
of there.
still, your narrative's still there. It still
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is weird that they're moving and she's like, well, he can stay at the house and finish up. We're gonna go. Like,
Yeah.
that is the kind
Right.
of like I'm uncomfortable to be around him kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that could just be from like his own self hatred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He-
And-
I'm
Which
sure
is
he wore
good
it
that
on
you
his
see
sleeve.
this cop, even though they never got justice, you see him in turmoil from it, which I fucking love.
I
That
mean, I
they show
don't think
him
I would
in
have batted
pain.
an eye if he fucking shot his ass.
Exactly.
To be
Yeah, I
honest.
would've been like,
Exactly.
well,
But
Yeah.
I would have batted an eye, but for the sake of Colin as a person,
Yeah.
not for the sake of the
Right.
police
But
officer.
I'm
And
just
for the
glad-
sake of
I'm
like, you
just
know,
glad-
this is your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just glad you saw him in some kind of fucking pain. Like,
Yeah.
that was nice.
And yeah, and I mean, just like thinking about that scene and all the scenes where there was like, you know, I guess like rapping or verse interspersed into the dialogue.
So good.
yeah.
Very,
Was so
very
good.
Hamilton
I
inspired, but
feel
that
like-
makes sense. You know?
I feel like there is a potential for that to come off as kind of corny or like hokey or whatever, but it didn't play that way in this. It felt, you know, like very natural. Somebody just like freestyling in their free time, kind of like making stuff up.
And I think if any other film had a scene where the court scene happens,
Yeah.
or this, actually, let me say this one first. When he's running through the graveyard and he sees all the people killed by police brutality,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that scene works in another movie without coming off like a shock factor. And then I know you guys have different opinions on the court scene in the dream, but for me, I fucking love that scene because it's
I really liked it.
It's the
personally.
only non-subtle, like super blatant. This is how it fucking is seen in the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's
I
very
have
straightforward.
mixed feelings about it. I still can't decide how I feel about that scene. It was maybe a little bit over the top for me, in the way that it was. Maybe like more in the way that it was shot, not in like the content of it. It just like felt a little bit tonally out of place, almost like in the way that it was
I disagree,
shot.
but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but like I don't know. I think that scene could have been a little bit less, like a little bit more subtle. But I understand you like it for its unsubtlety, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. But I didn't.
That's how everybody feels about it. That's the most, absolutely the most like divisive scene in the whole film.
I didn't dislike it. I just don't. I'm not sure that it fits.
I disagree, but that's okay.
I think
Yeah,
my
that's fair.
favorite scene is when they're when they have that move that like they're clearing the trash out of the house,
Yeah.
and it's just like all
Yeah.
this like African American family that like was original Oakland residents,
Yeah.
and this person just sees it as all trash. Like the person that the house flipper
Yeah,
character.
take it all the dump. Thanks.
Taking
Bye.
all the dump, doesn't even fucking notice that like there's family albums and like somebody's whole fucking life, like their whole
Right.
culture is just getting taken to the dump.
Yeah.
My favorite scene is when he's selling that boat. I'm not gonna lie
Oh,
to you.
yeah,
that
that's
scene
so
is
good.
hilarious. I was laughing the
I
whole
like when he's
time.
like, when Miles
I
is
like-
like, "What the fuck did you just say?"
He's like, I don't know, but I sold that boat.
Yeah. Colin's like, "What the fuck did you just say?" And
And-
Miles had no idea.
Another good scene was just the salon scene was so fucking good.
And then the cut to him with his straightened
Yeah,
hair.
I know.
Was just
Yeah.
really funny.
The little scenes like that kind of
And
show that like
scene- well, sorry.
kind of show that like Miles like speaks the language of like his culture, even though he doesn't necessarily like the culture that they have, even though he doesn't necessarily like fit what you'd think, you know.
And then I'd also say,
And it shows like he goes over the top to like try to fit in because he wants to so badly, because that is who he is, and he knows that he doesn't get perceived as that.
I would say another thing too for me is how perfectly they found a way to work Val into being into a private space with him by having that goof. Like that scene
Yeah.
is not without reason. That scene
Right.
actually serves a plot purpose, and you don't even notice the first time.
Right.
You're like, this
because
is
it
kind of
gets-
goofy, except for the fact that it's absolutely relevant.
Yeah, it
and
gets him
important.
and Val and into having
Yeah.
like a moment.
Yep, it's really good.
Yeah.
I think that you talking about the worst scene being the court scene. For me, the worst scene is the fucking.
I don't know if I would say it's the worst scene. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that there's a scene that I would call like, oh, this is the worst.
I thought
scene
the
in
locker room
movie.
scene was really dorky and weird, but that's fine.
The locker room scene.
All it did was to show the purpose that Miles didn't like Val, and I'm like, we already knew that.
Yeah.
But it also just shows like just Miles fitting in too. They
Yeah,
kind of go
sure.
out of the way to show like Miles fitting in too sometimes.
You doing all right over there, Bridget?
Yeah. I'm just.
And I think it just like is a
Readjusting.
build up for when like Miles has that explosion for being called like a hipster. Like all
Yeah.
the times that like they show him clearly fitting into this culture.
Yeah. But yeah, there aren't any like I don't think there's any like bad like low point to this movie.
No, it's
I
like
really
a,
liked
either.
it.
it's
I don't
an
think there's a
uphill
bad
climb
point.
the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed
They
it.
keep the intensity really high.
Yeah, and it like holds your attention and it like really keeps you like engaged. And there are moments that are shocking and moments that are sad, but then also there's like that levity to it, which I really like.
And then I love the breaking point of allowing. So, the moment where Colin finally goes off on the officer is like the breaking point for him to be allowed to be angry.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the scene where Miles drinks the green juice is the scene where he's allowed to be chilled.
Yeah.
And
I didn't even think about
yeah,
that.
and
Good fucking point.
thank you. And it's kind of funny because it literally lets you know, like, not only is he like chilled for this moment, but he actually likes it. He likes the green juice.
Yeah, and
He
like
likes the calm.
yeah, and like he doesn't have to fight so hard to fit in, and he doesn't have to fight so hard to be like, worthy of being from Oakland. He doesn't have to fight so hard to be Colin's friend.
And then I appreciate the fact that he took you think him taking the grill out is him learning something, but then he puts it back in, and it's like, well, that's because who he is. That's who he is.
Yeah.
You can't change who he is. And that was really cool because I feel like the easy film manipulation option would have been like take the grill out and make him more like white-esque. It's like no, he is who he is, but he also can
And he's allowed
have
to
his
be.
soft side and full.
Yeah, he's allowed to be
show
who
the
he
full
is.
him.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and you show different faces to different people, and like that's sort of what that is, I think.
Yeah.
I think they should have called the movie Face Facin'.
Face
Face
Basin.
facing.
I wonder if that was ever a conversation.
That's hilarious.
So what else do we have to say about it?
I mean, only that it's awesome.
Only that it's fantastic.
Only that I
yeah.
loved it.
It was
so.
really great.
If you
Yeah.
have anybody in your life that doesn't fucking understand systematic oppression and thinks cops are 100% in the right, show them this fucking movie. Sit them down and strap them to a fucking chair.
Also,
and
the
make them watch it.
beginning is just incredibly funny.
Yeah.
The opening scene, like all the guns,
It's really
it's
funny,
incredibly
Because
funny.
it's also going to be a sleeper hit for them. They won't even notice.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think I don't know. I think it's like refreshing. I mean, not refreshing. Maybe is the wrong word, but like, you know, I think more people are starting to realize that like this is an issue. I think this
Yeah.
is like in my lifetime the most that I've seen. Like, I like, you know, Becky from Jesus Club in high school is like out here trying to
Yeah.
defund the police, and I'm like, I love that for you, Beck. Like, let's go, girl.
I hope
Right?
I hope Becky's either real or not. Like I really hope if she's real, she heard that and she like had a little
Oh,
cheer.
for all my Beckys out there, like, you keep doing the good work, dude.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. We back you.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just it's a crazy time, and I feel like
Right.
this movie is a good entry point for somebody who doesn't fully understand.
And it's
Yeah,
okay.
because
And like, it's okay to not understand. And it's okay to like want to be better and want to. Because, like, not all of us were raised in a very woke way. And that's
Yeah.
fine that you weren't raised. Well, no, it's shitty that you weren't raised like that.
Yeah.
But, like, you can be better than what you were taught.
And also, it doesn't matter how much you know; you never fully know.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think no matter what sort of level you're entering at, this movie gives you a lot to think about. Like it gave me a lot to think about for sure, and like, yeah, and I think it's a good. I think like Franny said, it's a good entry point just because it's really funny and like really kind of it's at times light and like
Yeah.
it's a good. I mean, like, and like there are those like themes of like their friendship and stuff, and you're rooting
Yeah.
for that.
Oh, actually, I do want to mention one more scene.
Yeah,
The scene where they have to look in each other's eyes and look into each
Yeah.
other's. That is such an underrated scene from the film.
yeah.
I know a lot of people who don't like that scene either.
I like
and
it.
I'm just like, that really is like an outline for what the rest of the movie's going to be. Like they see it to be silly to try to understand each other. It's like, we're the same. We're Calvin and Hobbes.
Right.
And then you kind of
Yeah,
learn
they
throughout
came
the film.
up together.
They're totally different.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Yeah, and just like
people
them
are in
trying to
general.
see each other
Mhm.
for like, you know, see each other like deeply.
Fucking beautiful scene. I
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
a
And
good
the,
scene.
The lighting, and you can really see the reflection off of like the eyes, and it's just
Yeah.
very.
Yeah.
It's like an opening to the soul kind of shot, and I really
Yeah.
thought that was cool.
Yeah. So yeah, like it has that stuff like about friendship and it's funny and there's like very comedic moments to it, but then it's also serious, and I think like that's what makes it a good like entry point if this is something that you don't maybe know a whole lot about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, so we should rate it, right?
Yeah, we should rate it.
I'd give it a 10 out of 10.
I'd give it a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
I give it an A+.
Wow, that's probably the first time that's ever.
I don't think
happened.
that's true.
Yeah, I think
I think
it's
it-
the
I
first
bet
time.
you
it's
anything
a-
I gave Scooby-Doo an A+.
I did not
Yeah, but
give
I
Scooby
didn't
a
give
10 out of 10,
Scooby-Doo.
though.
We
No, I
usually
know
have
that-
pretty like polarizing opinions.
Like, friend,
Yeah.
I like it. Like, I really like absolutely filleted Jojo Rabbit last year.
Yeah.
Like, just absolutely inserted Jojo Rabbit into my mouth because
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved this movie more, and I've known that. It was my favorite movie
Yeah.
of the year that it came out. So this might be my first 10 out of 10 on the podcast, actually.
Like I've seen
Yeah.
this movie twice, and I know I could sit down and watch it 10 times more.
And it rolls too. It's so fast.
Yeah, it
really
doesn't
is.
feel as long
It's
as
got
it
a
is.
rhythm.
Not exactly Synecdoche, New York.
and like how
Good God.
Miles says something like they like the rhythm, they like the like when you make the words
Yeah.
sound good, and like that's what this movie does. It gives you a good rhythm and has a good message.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So yeah, I think I guess we can say officially that for our podcast right now, the highest rated film is Blindspotting.
Like overall,
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
terms of everything, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we really liked
Yeah.
it.
So you guys definitely need to check it out.
Yeah, it's good.
Support it, buy it on Blu-ray, and rent it on Amazon.
Fuck
Whatever you want to
yes.
do with it. I'm a big fan of physical media, but some people like to do all digital. So you can
Becky,
do that too.
you show your church group members that movie.
Right.
All right. well-
Alrighty, guys.
All right, so what are we
next
going to do
week.
next week?
Oh.
Pride.
Oh.
I think.
Pride.
Ooh.
Pride episode.
Ooh.
So we're doing the Pride one.
Pride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're gonna do
Yeah.
you're gonna do gay stuff.
It's very gay stuff.
Yeah.
Because Madison and I are gay.
And somebody said that we were their favorite like gay podcast or something, which I love.
Gay film podcast.
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
amazing.
I feel, and we all decided it's probably not a huge genre out there. Gay film podcasts.
I mean, probably not, but
we
I'm
found
honored.
our niche.
Gay film Scooby Doo centric podcast. We were joking that Scooby Doo is our niche earlier.
Scooby Doo is totally our niche.
People love that Scooby Doo episode.
We'll do more Scooby Doo.
We're gonna do more
Yeah.
Scooby Doo. We were talking about it. But yeah, so next week we're gonna do Portrait of a Lady on Fire, because that's like a newer gay movie.
And it actually is one of the few films that we can talk about that's great, that is up for Oscar contention.
Yeah, I mean, and
There
it's got a
are
buzz.
Oscars coming in
Holy
this next year.
And then
it's a foreign film, by the way, guys, and
yes.
you can watch it for free on Hulu.
I mean, if you already subscribe to Hulu,
Yeah.
you have to pay for Hulu.
yeah.
I mean, like, did they really like think that I was like? There's no free ad supported Hulu anymore.
Well, I just wanted to make it clear.
You know what? Get your
And then-
mom's login. Use Hulu.
Yeah, get your mom's login and watch gay movies on Hulu. That's how you do it.
Break
Yeah.
your Fire Stick. Watch it on there. Whatever you
Oh
want to
yeah.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other movie that we're gonna watch is Brokeback Mountain, because that's like the quintessential gay movie. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I mean
It's
maybe
such a
it's
great film.
maybe not to you, but to me it
I've
is.
never seen it. And I think I'm the only one in this room that hasn't.
I've never
Bridget
seen
has
it.
never seen it all the way through.
I've never seen it all the
correct?
way. I have quite the
Bridget has
story.
a tale to tell about Brokeback
Yeah,
Mountain.
stay tuned for that.
So you can rent it off of any rental platform. I've checked, and if you have Hulu and a Star subscription, it's free.
Okay, cool.
You have to have both subscriptions.
Get
Right,
your
gotta
dad's
get both
Hulu
of them.
Star subscription.
and watch Brokeback Mountain on
Get
there
your great aunt Lucy's
or
Star.
whatever.
Watch the
Subscription.
gayest movie you can.
Coming for Lucy, I guess.
Yeah. So that's the plan.
Coming
Portrait of a
forward.
Lady on Fire and Brokeback Mountain. That's what we're doing next week.
Yes.
And then should we go ahead and say what we're going to do the week after that? Have we decided?
It's the movie
It's
that
the-
we've been
it's the-
talking about doing forever, so you've probably already seen it.
It's the time. It's time now finally to deliver on our promise.
It's probably the gayest movie we're actually going to review.
I know. I said we should just do this for Pride Month, but they didn't like to hear that.
That's not true.
That's right, kids. It's
That's-
Ratatouille.
that's-
I'm just kidding. It's not Ratatouille.
Oh no!
I wish it was. Ratatouille's maybe my second favorite gay movie behind this one. Actually, that's a lie.
If
Top Gun.
It's the
Madison
third.
picked-
It's this movie.
Top Gun.
Top Gun. Ratatouille.
Top Gun. That's a crossover you're waiting for. Ratatouille meets Top Gun.
I
Hell
want
yeah.
you to make an Excel
He
spread.
makes sandwiches on the beach playing volleyball.
Madison,
Anyone can be a fighter pilot.
you have to make a Madison's list of what movies are actually gay and
Hell
release
yeah,
it
I
for
will
our
do that. I
fans.
will do that for you.
And why? We
Yes.
want a spreadsheet.
Hell yeah.
That sounds good.
Anyway, the movie that we're watching next week is Reservoir Dogs.
Hey, I watched it
Um,
last night and I didn't fall asleep this time.
Hell
Had a
yeah.
I have a
accomplishment.
feeling, last time I checked, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not going to check for myself. You have to check. That also was another one where if you had Stars and Hulu, you could watch it.
I think you can also rent it on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, you can,
yeah.
yeah, you can rent pretty much any movie on Amazon
Yeah,
Prime.
I think it's like $3.99 on Amazon Prime, which is
but-
most things.
But I believe if you already have a Stars subscription and Hulu, it sounds like I'm being fucking sponsored by
Right.
Stars. But I'm
Sponsor
I'm trying to give
us.
people the best situation they can to
Or
watch the
if
movie.
you know
Yeah.
me in real life, you can watch my DVD copy, which has both widescreen and full screen.
You can
discs.
watch,
But it
you can
doesn't
watch
have
would you want-
subtitles.
You can watch my VCR burned to DVD copy,
Oh my
Oh,
which
wow.
god!
has only full screen and no subtitles.
Bridget was so upset that it didn't have subtitles.
I
She
was-
was like pissed, and I was like, "Oh my god, just ask me what they're saying." I've seen it so many times.
Because I was like, I'm having.
Wait, this is podcast. This is the next. This is on the next.
Okay, you're
All
right.
right,
You're right.
all
You're right.
right.
But that's where you can
But-
watch it. So gay stuff, and then even gayer stuff. Reservoir Dogs. That's the plan. We're delivering on Tarantino. We said we would, and we are.
Also, we're not going to support any of our supporting stuff because this is a Black Lives Matter podcast. So we're just going to go ahead and end it right here.
Bye.
Links below for all the different
For
Black
all the
Lives
stuff that
Matter
we-
stuff we talked
Yeah.
about. We love you.